Hey, everyone. Hi. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Come on in the room. Okay, as you can see, I won't say I'm by myself. I have the Ruach. I have Yah. I have my angel. Everyone is with me, and I have you all. So, um, again, any questions, anything, please put it in the chat. But how's everybody doing? Welcome to story time, story time, story time. So we're glad to see you all. And as you know, we always start with we always read the scriptures, but we start with another scripture. And today I will be coming to you from Psalms 26, which reads, "Judge me, O Yahuwah, for I have walked in my integrity. I have trusted also in Yahuwah. Therefore I shall not slide. Examine me, O Yahuwah, and prove me. Try my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth," capital T. "I have not sat with vain persons, neither will I go in with dissemblers. I have hated the assembly of wicked doers and will not sit with the wicked. I will wash my hands in innocency, so will I compass your altar, O Yahuwah, that I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all your wondrous works. Yahuwah, I have loved the habitation of your house and the place where your honor dwells. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men, in whose hands is mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be merciful unto me. My foot stands in an even place, even in an even place, even the assemblies will I bless Yahuwah." And I don't take anything as a coincidence. When I opened it up, I was like, oh no, I forgot. We read a scripture. I opened it up right here at Psalms 26, and it happens to be all these things wisdom was teaching us to walk in integrity, to walk before Yahuwah. All these things are in the wisdom of Solomon, and not to go chase after people with no integrity or the unrighteous. Don't think about what the world is doing. Just stay with Yahuwah. Okay. As you know, we are coming from our Sefer today, the wisdom of Solomon, or Chokmah Shalomah. And if you do not have a Sefer, remember to go to www.sefer.net. Use a Storytime discount. We don't get a kickback from it, but use a discount. Don't pay full price if you don't have to. Okay, and with that, nice to see everyone. You know, I have to put on my, oh, I know what I forgot to do. I need to enter this full screen. Okay, y'all don't pay any attention to all the, little stuff behind me. Where am I studying? Okay, let us start. We are on page 1155. We are, thank you, Sister Nishan. We are on chapter 16, and I'm just going to start at the first verse and go into it, but we stopped like around verse 6. That was our clip. So we're going to start at the top of 16, and let's see what else our Grandpa Solomon had to say. Let's do this. For chapter 16, verse 1. "Therefore, by the like were they punished worthily, and by the multitude of beasts tormented, instead of which punishment, dealing graciously with your own people, you prepared for them meat of a strange taste, even quails to stir up their appetite. And we know that they had quails in the wilderness. And I don't believe they had that before. It could be talking about the manna. That was one thing we didn't think about. No, because we're talking about, no. Okay, let's go. Verse 3. To the end that they, desiring food, might for the ugly sight of beast, since among them loathe even that, which they must needs desire. But these, suffering penury for a short space, might be made partakers of a strange taste. For it was requisite among them, upon exercising tyranny should come penury, which they could not avoid. And I think that, though, we were talking about how they were exercising tyranny over everybody, but it only came to nothing or made them poorer. I'm trying to think of the exact definition for that penury, but it wasn't like a good thing. It was like, you did all this, you exercised all this tyranny, but it really didn't do you any good. Which they could not avoid, but to these it should only be showed how their enemies were tormented. I need to just slow down for a minute. For when the horrible fierceness of beasts came upon these, and they perished with the stings of crooked servants, and your wrath endured not forever. So he said, even when you send punishment among your people, it didn't last forever. And if you just think of, I think right now he might be referring a little bit to their wilderness experience. Because remember, they were acting up in the wilderness, and he had to send a little bit of things. And he said, even then, you're wrapped in and do forever. Verse 6, but they were tormented for a small season, that they might be admonished, having a sign of salvation, to put them in remembrance of the commandment of your Torah. So when we are punished, he's trying to bring us back to Torah. He's not trying to leave us out there forever to be punished and into eternal damnation. He's punishing us to bring us back to Torah. Verse 7, for he that turned himself toward it was not saved by the thing that he saw, but by you that are the Savior of all. And it may be, let me just go to verse 8. And in this you made your enemies confess that it is you who deliver from all evil. For them the bitings of grasshoppers and flies For them the bitings of grasshoppers and flies killed. Neither was there found any remedy for their life, for they were worthy to be punished by such. But your sons, not the very teeth of venomous dragons, overcame, for your mercy was ever by them and healed them. For they were pricked that they should remember your words, and were quickly saved, that not falling into deep forgetfulness, they might be continually mindful of your goodness. For it was neither herb nor mollifying plaster that restore them to health, but your word, O Yahuwah, which heals all things. For you have power of life and death. You lead to the gates of Sheol and bring up again. So he's saying, even though right now he's talking about punishing his own people, even though you had to punish them or us for a while, you still had mercy on us. When they were in the wilderness, I remember they were getting overstung by, I think it was snakes. And various things were biting them, and he had them put it up on a pole. And when they looked to it, if they looked to it like he said, then they were okay. But he's saying it's not the thing you looked at up to that I told you to look at and you were saved. I saved you. I, Yahuwah, saved you, because you could have looked up at that thing all day long and still died. But I saved you because of my grace and mercy. I saved you. And he said, even the herbs, I know I gave you herbs to heal your body, but guess what? If I don't want them to work, they not going to work. And we know, we go to the herb store all the time and buy those things that, Yahuwah put them here for, to take care of the things that Yahuwah put them here for. But he said, don't get to tripping. It ain't really them herbs that saved you. I saved you. I healed you. I made those herbs. I did this. And even though I made them to do a certain thing, they're not going to do the certain thing in your body unless I tell them to. I have control even over that. So that's what I said, don't get to tripping thinking, I took some herbs, I'm going. He said, don't get cocky. Remember who brought you out. Whatever it is he brought you out from, sickness, disease, your enemies, all that. He's saying, I'm the one who brought you out because you are my people. So you overcame, he said, like the teeth of venomous dragons, which I'm sure he's talking about a snake. You can either survive a snake bite or not. The ones that are poison. It depends on y'all. It totally depends on y'all. You can go get some ointment, but this worked for everybody else. Why it's not working for you? Because y'all said it wasn't. It's your time to go. And he does it all for correction. He whips us for correction. It's his desire that when he does this, we go back to Torah. Just like our parents, when they gave us a whooping. It wasn't they desire. They weren't trying to kill us. They wanted us to get back right, so we wouldn't have a bunch of problems. They wanted to discipline us. And remember, that's one of the things wisdom does, is discipline us. Let me look at these chat things. They were tyrants, and it just made them extremely poor and destitute. Yeah, extreme poverty. That was a penury. So even though they were tyrants and they were trying to take over, and I got all this money, you ended up with nothing. You ended up in extreme poverty. That's what's going to happen to all these people who are trying to run the world today. All your wealth is laid up for the righteous, and you're going to be at extreme poverty. That's just scripture. Okay, he says, I have the power of life and death. You lead to the gates of Sheol and bring you up again, because he says, I'm the one who takes you to Sheol. Whether you get out and where you go, I'm in control of that. Don't ever forget it. He said, I'm the one in control. Verse 14, a man indeed kills through his malice, and the Ruach, when it is gone forth, returns not. Neither the soul received up comes again. But it is not possible to escape your hand. For the wicked that denied to know you was scourged by the strength of your arm with strange rains, hails, and showers. Were they persecuted that they could not avoid, and through fire were they consumed. For which is most to be wondered at? The fire had more force in the water. For which is most to be wondered at? The fire had more force in the water that quenches all things, for the world fights for the righteous. For some time the flame was mitigated, that it might not burn up the beasts that were sent against the wicked, but themselves might see and perceive that they were persecuted with the judgment of Elohim. And at another times it burns even in the midst of water, above the power of fire, that it might destroy the fruits of the unjust land. Instead, whereof you fed your own people with angels' food, and did send them from heaven bread prepared without their labor, able to content every man's delight, and agreeing to every taste. don't miss that. So he says, look, I have control of the fire. If I want it to burn in water, it's going to burn in water. If I want it to burn, because look, I was saying here that the beast that there's this fire, but it's not burning up the beasts that were sent against the wicked. Like, it's just like no weapon formed against us shall prosper. When Yahuwah sends a weapon, it's gonna prosper. Mess with him if you want to. Whoever he sends, whatever, whether it's judgment, whether it's whooping, whether it's you, whether it's your enemies, when he sends it, it's gonna hurt. And there's nothing you can do to avoid it. Water puts out a fire, but fire can burn in water. Yahuwah said, I have control over all that. I have control over all that. He said, instead, he fed his own people angels' food and sent them bread from heaven without their labor, able to content every man's delight and agreeing to every taste. When he sent that manna down from heaven, when they were in the wilderness, because it ain't like they had a whole bunch of food like in the refrigerator and freezers and in the cabinets in Egypt. It just didn't work like that. He said, but I made sure they were fed. I gave them manna. I gave them manna from heaven. I gave them angels' food. I gave them the food angels eat. And everybody liked it. Everybody liked manna. Nobody was like, this manna nasty. What else you got, mama? It wasn't like that. Everybody was happy to get that manna. They were eating angels' food. So Yahuwah is saying, I can provide. But I make sure you know I'm the one who does it. 21. For your sustenance declared your sweetness unto your children, and serving to the appetite of the eater, tempered itself to every man's liking. Wow. So he's saying, you know how hard it is to get children to eat. Come on now. He said, but everybody tasted the manna according to what they like. Wow, that's kind of deep. For your sustenance declared your sweetness unto your children, and serving to the appetite of the eater, tempered it to every man's liking. So whatever taste you like, that's what you tasted when you ate manna. Whatever you didn't like, it didn't taste like that. Whatever you liked, that's what he made the manna taste like. Wow. I never knew that. Wow. So everybody got what they liked, but it was the same thing. It was manna. So mama put manna on the table, everybody eat it. To one person it tastes this way. People who like sweeter things like kids, they ate it. Whatever your taste bud was like, that's what he made the manna taste like. But it was all manna. That's Yahuwah. That's what he does. All right. That's amazing to me. 22. But snow and ice endured the fire and melted not, that they might know that fire burning in the hail and sparkling in the rain did destroy the fruits of the enemies. And remember when they were in Mitzrayim or in Egypt, there was hail that dropped down, and when it hit the ground, it was fire. He said, but it didn't do anything to you, but it destroyed your enemy. But you, it didn't touch you, it didn't bother you, but it destroyed your enemy. But this again did even forget his own strength, that the righteous might be nourished. For the creature that serves you, who are the maker, increases his strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, and abates his strength for the benefit of such as put their trust in you. So when you put your trust in Yahuwah, he could just take you out, knock you out, do whatever he wants, but he says, I'm going to hold back a little bit. I'm gonna punish him, but I'm gonna chill a little bit. I could do. Remember, he was gonna wipe them all out, and Moshe was like, "No, don't do it." And he said, "Okay, because you asked, I won't." But he told Moshe, "I'll take them all out, and I'll start again with you." And he still would have been keeping his covenant promise because Moshe comes from Shem, comes from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. He still would have been keeping his promise. And Moshe was like, "No, don't do that. Just go read of that account." 25. Therefore, even then was it altered into all fashions, and was obedient to your grace, that nourishes all things according to the desire of what that had need, that your children, O Yahuwah, whom you love, might know that it is not the growing of fruits that nourishes man, but that it is your word which preserves them, and that which preserves them that put their trust in you. It's not the food that nourishes us. Remember, it's that wisdom. It's the word. Remember, even Mashiach said one of the things that one of the demons tempted him with was, if you hungry, just command the stones to be made bread. And he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded from the mouth of Yahuwah. I think it's from the mouth of Yahuwah. I think I said that right. Trust in him. He can provide manna. He can, like he said, I can make food rain down from the sky and everybody will like it. All I need you to do is trust me. Know that I'm the one providing it. Verse 27, for that which was not destroyed of the fire, being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away, that it might be known that we must prevent the sun to give you thanks, and at the day spring pray unto you. For the hope of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter's hoarfrost, and shall run away as unprofitable water. In other words, in everything, give thanks to him. Because everything else, it says, for the unthankful, it'll melt away like hoarfrost. I'm thinking that's snow because it's coming in the winter. And it says, and it shall run away as unprofitable water. So just like snow melts and the water, it melts into water and goes away, says, if you're unthankful, I can take it away. Let me see some of these comments in case I have to make mine taste like chocolate cake. Okay, Brother Hector. Okay, let's go. We are on chapter 17. Whatever you like, it says that's what manna tasted like. I never knew that. That is so awesome. Only y'all can do that. Y'all have no idea how awesome that is to me. Chapter 17. For great are your judgments and cannot be expressed. Therefore, unnurtured souls have erred. For when unrighteous men thought to oppress the holy nation, they being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness, and fettered with the bonds of a long night, lay there exiled from the eternal providence. For while they supposed to lie hidden their secret sins, they were scattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, being horribly astonished and troubled with strange apparitions. For neither might the corner that held them keep them from fear, but noises as of waters falling down sounded about them, and sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances. He's talking about those 3 days of darkness that the Egyptians went through. All I thought was they just sat in the darkness, but all they were seeing apparitions and hearing noises. They were terrified, not just of the darkness, but just imagine you in the dark. You can't see nothing, but you hearing all this stuff, and it's all these strange apparitions coming to you. You are terrified because you can't get up and run away. You can't do anything. You can't even see. Wow, I didn't know it was that bad. No power of the fire might give them light, neither could the bright flames of the stars endure to enlighten that horrible night. Only there appeared unto them a fire, kindled of itself, very dreadful. For much being terrified, they thought the things which they saw to be worse than the sight they saw not. As for the illusions of art magic, they were put down. They were put down, and their vaunting in wisdom was reproved with disgrace. For they that promised to drive away terrors and troubles from a sick soul were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at. For though no terrible thing did fear them, yet being scared with beasts, they passed by and hissing of servants. They died for fear, denying that they saw the air, which could of no side be avoided. For wickedness condemned by her own witness is very timorous. I don't know what that means. And being pressed with conscience, always forecast grievous things. If somebody could look up that word, timorous, it's spelled Timorous. So this is actually describing to us those days of darkness that the Egyptians went through. I never knew they went through this. They were scared. And I was thinking, oh, they scared, but they just scared because it's dark. They can't see nothing. But they were seeing apparitions and hearing things. And it says all those magicians that thought that they would leave people troubled. They were it seemed like they were the most scared, and they're the ones who died. All that magic they was doing, magic, quote unquote magic they said they were doing, they were scared. They heard the hissing of serpents. It says they died for fear, denying that they saw the air, which could of no side be avoided. They were scared to death. They were scared to death. It's a real thing of being scared. They were scared to death. Oh, but while they was up there, we magicians, Moshe can't do anything. We can copy this. We can do this. But they sitting there right now scared. And all the people are hearing serpents and seeing apparitions, and there ain't nothing they can do. And they are literally scared, being tormented. Wow. 12. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the helps which reason offers. And the expectation from within being less counts the ignorance more than that cause which brings the torment. So basically, the expectation from within, because you thought one thing, being less, everything you thought about a certain thing, it's not all it was cracked up to be. Counts the ignorance more than the cause which brings the torment. So he says, the fact that you were ignorant, the fact that you don't even know Yahuwah, the fact that you have no ignorance is causing you to be scared of things which you shouldn't even be scared of. You scared of like little apparitions that you thought you saw. But if you really think about it, wait, I don't see nothing. It's so dark, I can't even see my hand. So these things that are going through, they must be an illusion, but you so ignorant, you didn't think about that. And so a lot of y'all died. A lot of y'all sitting there in fear because you don't know the truth, because you chose to deny the truth. So now you scared, and some of y'all died. Verse 14, but they, sleeping the same sleep that night, which is indeed intolerable, and which came upon them out of the bottoms of inevitable Sheol, were partly vexed with monstrous apparitions and partly fainted, their heart failing them, for a sudden fear and not looked for came upon them. So then whosoever there fell down was straitly kept, shut up in prison with iron bars. So you were just like a prisoner of your own fear, because you laying there in dark like, oh no, what's going to come next? Even though you can't even see anything. Everything's but a whole bunch of apparitions were coming, but you can't get, like I said, you can't get up and run because you can't see. But you're laying there being scared to death. This is so crazy to me. Like, I never knew this. Like I said, I just thought they just sat in darkness, couldn't get up. A few other things, but they were scared because they were in this total darkness and they were scared. They did not know how to handle it at all. But see if there's some. Okay, y'all, stop saying what the manna's gonna taste like. Peach cobbler with butter cookie crust. Really, y'all? Double cheeseburger with beef bacon. Seriously, y'all? These people scare y'all talking about food. I mean, I get it. But yeah. Whatever you like, that's what the manna tastes like. Oh, y'all a mess. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, verse 17. For whether he were husbandman or shepherd or laborer in the field, he was overtaken and endured that necessity which could not be avoided, for they were all bound with one chain of darkness. And even if he was outside, guess what? You think the moon shined on you? Nope. You think the stars shone for you? Nope. You were in utter darkness. Wherever you were when the darkness hit, that's where you were when the darkness hit. Wherever you happen to be, that's where you were stuck at for those days of darkness. Don't get caught up in the days of darkness. Don't do it. Stay in safety. Stay in Torah. Stay in obedience. Stay under Yahuwah. Let him guide you. Wisdom, Ruach, him. Let the Torah be your guide. Listen to Ruach. Don't get caught up in all this darkness and being scared of your own shadow that you can't even see. They scared of stuff they can't even see. They hear noises. They like, what's called? They monsters, whatever you want to call it. They are scared, and some of them are scared to death. They're actually dying. Verse 18. Whether it were a whistling wind or a melodious noise of birds among the spreading branches, or a pleasing fall of water running violently, or a terrible sound of stones cast down, or a running that could not be seen of skipping beasts, or a roaring voice of savage wild beasts, or a rebounding echo from the hollow mountains, these things made them swoon for fear. But the whole world shined with clear light, and none were hindered in their labor. Over them only was spread a heavy night, an image of that darkness which should afterward receive them. But yet were they unto themselves more grievous than the darkness. So just think. It says they were scared of or a terrible sound of stones cast down. If they heard rocks fall, they'd be like, what? What's going on? The rocks gonna hit us? A running that could not be seen of skipping beasts. If they heard something, is that a lion, a tiger, a bear? Oh my. Maybe that's where the Wizard of Oz got that from. They're like, what? Is it coming to get us? Especially if you got caught when you was outside. You hear all this, water and everything around you, and you like, wait, is a beast coming to hear me? Because you also heard the roaring beast of savage wild beasts. Think if you just heard a lion roar, you like, oh no, we're gonna get ate up by morning. If you heard an echo from the mountains, you like, what's that? What's that? Even though you might have heard that echo 10 million times off them mountains, it's different in the light than in the darkness. They were scared. And it said, but everybody else had light. Just imagine there's light over the people in Goshen, they got light. But even in those 3 days of darkness, we know that some of us, some of the Hebrews, died then. Because they got caught on the wrong side. Yeah, you wanted to side with the Egyptians. Y'all all up in the Egyptian house. Okay, go ahead. Bougele, whatever y'all want to call yourself. Go on. Hang out with them Egyptians. When the plague hit, darkness, you was right with them. Suffering with them because you wanted to hang out. You wasn't going to leave Egypt for nothing. And so them plagues hit you too. But it says, but those who have light had light. But it says, a heavy night, an image of that darkness, which after would see them. But yet were they unto themselves more grievous than the darkness. It said it got to the point where they were more, the way they reacted was worse than the days of darkness. It was worse than the darkness that was on them. That's how scared they were, because they knew they had done wrong. And they had been through all those other plagues, but they didn't listen. So all the plagues just get worse and worse and worse when you don't listen. See some of these comments. No escaping the darkness. Timorous. Oh, suffering from fear. Okay, so that's what the timorous meant. They were suffering from fear. Nervous Nelly. It sounds like Yahuwah allowed them to experience hell. Yeah, allowed them to experience hell without the fire. And just think, if you had to go through all this, especially the ones that die, you got to go to something worse. You got to go to something worse than this. And you already was scared of that. Just think what's going to happen in the end. Don't do it. Stay in Torah. Chapter 18. Nevertheless, your Kodashim, called out, had a very great light, whose voice they hearing and not seeing their shape, because they also had not suffered the same thing. They counted them happy. Like I said, while you over there being miserable, the Kodashim is over here being happy. We got light. The world right now is miserable. Stop looking at what people got, what they wear, the house they live in. Those people are miserable. They are miserable. The world is miserable right now. Kodashim, we supposed to have joy. We have the lights. We need to act like it. Verse 2. But for that they did not hurt them now, of whom, let me slow down with this one. But for that they did not hurt them now, of whom they had been wronged before, they thanked them and besought them pardon for that they had been enemies. Instead whereof you gave them a burning pillar of fire, both to be a guide of the unknown journey and a harmless sun to entertain them honorably. You provided for them. You provided light for them. For they were worthy to be deprived of light and imprisoned in darkness, who had kept your sun shut up, by whom the incorrupt light of the Torah was given unto the world. And when they had determined to slay the babies of the Kodashim, one child being cast forth and saved to reproduce them, you took away the multitude of their children and destroyed them together in a mighty water. And remember, they were killing the children of the Kodashim, or the Hebrews, called out. But one child, I'm going to assume that one child they're really talking about is Moshe, because remember, that's the one they cast out, but they actually found on the river and drew in. But we know that there were many babies that he kept, like they gave birth to him in the field, and then when they was throwing him, he was keeping a whole bunch of them. But there's one, this one you're not getting. Matter of fact, you're going to raise the one that's really going to come after you, Moshe. You're going to raise him. He going to live in your house, and then he coming. Okay. Where am I? I don't know. Verse 6. Of that night were our fathers certified afore, that assuredly knowing unto what oaths they had given credence, they might afterwards be of good cheer. So of your people was accepted both the salvation of the righteous and destruction of the enemies. So by that one child came the destruction of the enemies, but the salvation of the righteous. But remember, still, it all comes from Yahuwah. It still all comes from Yahuwah. He's still the one in control. For wherewith you did punish our adversaries, by the same you did glorify us whom you had called. So they had darkness, we had light. They were destroyed, we had life. I'm saying all we have to do is stay with Yahuwah. We got life. We don't have to worry about what's going on, what he's doing with everybody else, how he's judging the other nations. Just stay with Yahuwah. You got light over here, so stay. Verse 9, for the righteous children of good men did sacrifice secretly, and with one consent made a holy law, that the Kodashim should be like partakers of the same good and evil, the fathers now singing out the songs of praise. But on the other side, there sounded an ill-according cry of the enemies, and a lamentable noise was carried abroad for children that were bewailed. The master and the servant were punished after one manner, and like as the king, so suffered the common person. So they all together had innumerable dead with one kind of death. Neither were there living sufficient to bury them, for in one moment the noblest offspring of them was destroyed. For whereas they would not believe anything by reason of the enchantments upon the destruction of the firstborn, they acknowledged this people to be the sons of Elohim. So after he sent that firstborn, after he sent the death upon the firstborn, that's what most of them like, look, these people got to go. They got to go. There's death in all of our houses, and it don't matter who the people were, whether you was in the king's palace or whether you was homeless, whether you lived in a shack on the edge of town. Everybody's firstborn died. They were like, we can't fight this. And they over there singing. The Kodashim over there singing. We over here crying our eyes out. We hear singing over there. I hear singing over. That means none of their people died. How that happened? Why we got dead people? They finally got it and said, they gotta go. They Elohim. Okay. It says they acknowledge this people to be the sons of Elohim. Their God is there. Even Pharaoh was like, here, go. They was giving them stuff. Just go. Bye. Took all the rest of the cattle they had. Go. Bye. Y'all just get out of Egypt. Verse 14. For while all these things were in quiet silence, and that night was in the midst of her swift course, your almighty word leaped down from heaven out of your royal throne as a fierce man of war into the midst of a land of destruction, and brought your unfeigned commandment as a sharp sword, and standing up filled all things with death, and it touched the heaven, but it stood upon the earth. Then suddenly visions of horrible dreams troubled them sore, and terrors came upon them unlooked for. And one thrown here and another there, half dead, showed the cause of his death. For the dreams that troubled them did foreshow this, lest they should perish and not know why they were afflicted. Yea, the tasting of death touched the righteous also, and there was a destruction of the multitude in the wilderness, but the wrath endured not long. So he says, yes, there was a destruction in Egypt, but when y'all got into the wilderness and started acting crazy, I had to take some of y'all out too. Everybody needs to know that I'm Yahuwah. Don't get to acting up. That's what I said. He took care of the Egyptians. Yes, he got us out of there. Yes, we came out all singing, but when some of us got into the wilderness, we acted a fool. And a lot of times, if you kind of go back and read some of it, you'll see the mixed multitude is the one that kind of was starting stuff a lot. The mixed multitude was the people who, they had a little bit of Egyptian in them. They said, "Oh, let's go back." They had a little bit of Egyptian. That's why he says, "Get out of Babylon." Don't have no Babylon in there with you. Trying to go back, trying to do the things. You end up making the golden calf. He said, "Some of y'all I had to take out in the wilderness." So I'm judging my own too. Okay. Verse 21. For then the blameless man made haste and stood forth to defend them, Moshe, and bringing the shield of his proper ministry, even prayer and the propitiation of incense, set himself against the wrath, and so brought the calamity to an end, declaring that he was your servant. Like I said, we know Moshe went to the Most High as an intercessor for the people, saying, "Please don't destroy them." What will the other nations think? They're going to think you brought them out here and they didn't get to the promised land because you couldn't do it. Please, just don't. Please. He interceded for them. Or all, like I said, he took them all out. There's some of them just acting crazy. So he overcame the destroyer, not with the strength of body nor force of arms, but with a word subdued him that punished, alleging the oaths and covenants made with the fathers. And remember, that's what Moshe pleaded to him. Remember, you made a covenant with these people. You made a covenant. Please. Yes, I know keeping your covenant. You will still be keeping your covenant if they all came from me, because I still come from that line. But please, you have a covenant. Please save them. For when the dead were now fallen down by heaps, one upon another, standing between, he stayed the wrath and parted the way to the living. For the long garment was the whole world, and in the 4 rows of the stones was the glory of the graven of the Father's graven, and your majesty upon the diadem of his head. Unto these the destroyer gave place, and was afraid of them, for it was enough that they only tasted of the wrath. And when you think about the 4 rows, the high priest had that. I think it was called I want to say it was called a mitre, but I'm not really sure. Oh, the breastplate, the ephod, had the stones that represented the nations, but he also had this thing on his head, and I believe in the middle of it was also engraving the name. I think it was the name of the 12. No, it was Yah's name, something that had to do with his name that he wore on his that he wore on his forehead. If anybody remembers what it is or even know what I'm talking about, I can look it up later. Okay, verse 19. Let me since verse 19 is the last chapter, I'm just going to go ahead and read it at 6:50. So I think we can, I don't want to say get through it in 10 minutes, but I think we can read that in 10 minutes. Allow them to experience. Okay, no. They were over in Goshen singing, yeah. Moshe stood in the gap. Yep. Holiness to Yahuwah. That's what the thing in the middle, is that what you're telling me, Moray? That's what the thing in the middle of his head said, holiness to Yahuwah. I remember it was like something like that. Okay, chapter 19, the last chapter is in this book. Okay, thank you. Yes. So the thing on the middle said holiness to Yahuwah. That's the diadem. That's what a diadem. 19. As for the wicked, wrath came upon them without mercy unto the end, for he knew before what they would do. You already know, so you're going to catch him off guard. Don't do it. How that having given them leave to depart and sent them hastily away, they would repent and pursue them. So, like I said, Yahuwah already knew after they sent them away, he knew Pharaoh's, all of them were going to pursue after them. For while they were yet mourning and making lamentation at the graves of the dead, they added another foolish device and pursued them as fugitives, whom they had entreated to be gone. Should have just left them alone. Just let them go. For the destiny whereof they were worthy drew them unto this end, and made them forget the things that had already happened, that they might fulfill the punishment which was wanting to their torments. He said, after they got through burying their dead, they wasn't thinking about all the other stuff. All they knew is, we're going to get them Hebrews. They killed our people. They were just totally forgetting about what had happened, the darkness and all that. It couldn't have been the Hebrews who came through. They don't know all y'all firstborn and made the pictures fall off the wall and the engraving things fall off the wall. Like, they didn't do that. But it says they forgot, so they pursued them. Verse 5, and that your people might pass a wonderful way, but they might find a strange death. So the same way that the Hebrews got away from them was the same way that killed the Egyptians. For the whole creature in its proper kind was fashioned again anew, serving the peculiar commandments that were given unto them, that your children might be kept without hurt, as namely a cloud shadowing the camp, and where water stood before, dry lands appeared, and out of the Red Sea a way without impediment, and out of the violent stream a green field, where through all the people went that were defended with your hand, seeing your marvelous strange wonders. For they went at large like horses and leaped like lambs, praising you, O Yahuwah, who had delivered them. For they were yet mindful of the things that were done while they sojourned in the strange land, how the ground brought forth flies instead of cattle, and how the river cast up a multitude of frogs instead of fish. But afterwards they saw a new generation of fowls, when, being led with their appetite, they asked delicate meats. For quails came up unto them from the sea for their contentment. And punishment came upon the sinners, not without former signs by the force of thunders, for they suffered justly according to their own wickedness, so much so as they used a more hard and hateful behavior toward strangers. So it says, while they went through the Red Sea, they're leaping and praising the Lord. I mean, hey, if Yahuwah opened up some waters for me to get away, I'll be leaping and praising all the way through too, singing. Wow, this is amazing. It's probably making up songs, and because we praise people. We'll sing a song. We'll make up something. We can make up a song so that we having all this praise. But the enemy, we saw him. Yeah. Bye. Because remember, remember the enemy was forgetting what had happened, but they were remembering all the plagues that came upon Egypt. So we remember when all the frogs that came and he saved us, and now we going across to the Red Sea. We going not across the Red Sea, we going through the Red Sea. We are actually walking through the Red Sea. 12, and it's 12 lanes through the Red Sea. Verse 14, for the Sodomium, I think that means Sodomites, did not receive those whom they knew not. Oh, yes, they're talking about Sodom. Let's just say for the people of Sodom, did not receive those whom they knew not when they came, and these brought friends unto bondage that had well deserved of them. But not only so, but perchance some respect shall be had of those, because they use strangers not friendly. And for those of you who know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, not nice. Those people were not nice. Homosexuality was not their only problem. They were just some downright mean, evil people, especially if you weren't from there. Forget about it. Do not pass go. Don't even go through that town. Verse 16. But these very grievously afflicted them whom they had received with feastings, and were already made partakers of the same laws with them. Therefore, even with blindness were these stricken, as they were at the doors of the righteous men, when, being compassed about with horrible great darkness, everyone sought the passage of his own doors. And if you remember when they surrounded Lot's house, talking about bring them men out that we may know him. This account is in the 66, so everybody should know that. Remember, the angel had to come strike them with blindness. So that's again another time Yah used darkness. He had to strike them with blindness because they was acting a fool. Verse 18, for the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony, like as in a psaltery notes, change the name of the tune, and yet are always sounds which may well be perceived by the sight of the things that have been done. For earthly things were turned into watery, and the things that were swam in the water now went upon the ground. Oh, okay. Eek. Huh? So it says sea creatures start coming out the ground. Okay. Well, we know that actually. Remember that did happen in with one of the plagues that what was that thing? Y'all know what I'm called Sulanaf. That thing did come out the water. Okay. The fire had power in the water, forgetting his own virtue, and the water forgot his own quenching nature. So it says, like I said, Yahuwah saying, if I want fire to burn inside of water, it can. And the water will be like, I'm not putting that out. It let it burn. Yahuwah said burn. He didn't tell me to put it out. He said, let the fire burn on you, so I'm going to let the fire burn. 21. On the other side, the flames wasted not the flesh of the corruptible living things, though they walked therein, neither melted they the icy kind of heavenly meat that was of nature apt to melt. For in all things, O Yahuwah, you did magnify your people and glorify them. Neither did you lightly regard them, but did assist them in every time and place. So he's saying when there was calamity going on all over the place, whether it was in Egypt, whether it was in the wilderness, anywhere, you preserved your own. In the midst of all that, you preserved your own. So when we look at this world, again, this is the wisdom. It's happening right now. We look at the world, all that's going on, Yah preserved his own. He's still the same Yah. Yahuwah the same yesterday, today, and forever. Still the same Yah. You preserve your own. So we know. That's why we say, just stay under Torah. Stay obedient. Stay with Yahuwah. He preserves his own. And if he's ready for you to leave, to take you, because he said, they're done. Let me take them home. I don't want them to see a particular thing. You're not going to miss nothing down here. You're just not. So stay with Torah. That's the wisdom of our grandpa Solomon. So let us continue to, it's 7 o'clock on the nose. So let us continue to be in Torah. Okay. And with that, let me, since we did finish this chapter, this is what I'm being just kind of led to do right now. So tomorrow, we're going to take a hiatus. On Friday, on Friday, we will be back with Bonnie G, and we're going to introduce something new. But right now, Ruach has not told me what to read for tomorrow. So he wants to take you, and we kind of often do this between books. We haven't done it for a while. So tomorrow, we're just going to take it out, but we will be right back on Friday, 6 p.m. with Bonnie, with the new thing we're going to read. So with that, we are going to Shalom. And if you need to go back and look at this Wisdom of Solomon, please do, because this stuff is rich. This is an inheritance. This is better than gold. Much better than gold. So let us remember that. Love you all. It is 7 o'clock. And I believe the men need to have their meeting. So we are going to Shalom. Love you all. Shalom.